Welcome, Kara Schultz. Thank you for doing this with us. It's actually one of our first interviews. We're going to be interviewing women who compete in backgammon and talking about a little bit more behind the scenes rather than what's your perfect 6-1 play. So thanks for being our first, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Great. Thanks for having me, Christine. This is exciting.
It's more than a pleasure. Okay. You were the first one I wanted to interview, mostly because you didn't come back into the backgammon scene until 2018. And what you've done since then is really unbelievable. I mean, you won the first United States Women's National Championship in 2020. You pulled a spot on the Women's USA team. The Ganud Cup against the UK women's team. You won the Wild West Young Wranglers event in 2022. You and your coach, Jonah Seawald, which I want to ask you about later. You won the doubles event and in another big event. And in other words, you've really come in the 2020 LA Open Online Advanced Division, third and fourth in Beale Street. I could go on, but we won't waste any more time saying how fabulous you are. But you played before, right? And then you took a hiatus. How did you get to 2018?
Yeah, so I learned how to play backgammon when I was throughout high school and college. I was working at the Men's Warehouse. I don't know if you're familiar with that store, but it's a men's suit store. I don't even know if they're open anymore. But anyway, what would happen is I'd be working there, and there could be hours where a customer didn't come in. So one of my managers, he had this little, do you remember those corduroy backgammon cases?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen that? So he had one of those, and he would just pull it out when we weren't super busy and doing anything, and we'd play a game. And I learned about backgammon that way, and I really enjoyed it. But it was just, I guess it's old school. I didn't know anything about the cube. We were just playing basically 1-point matches and then kind of closing shop. So that's how I first learned. And then I never thought about it again really after high school. It's funny. I don't know how I got kind of back into it, but I was living in New York. I met my husband while I was there. And then when I moved back here to Southern California, I'm originally from Oceanside, a kind of a small town in Southern California, just south of here. I was looking for, kind of activities to get out and do things. And I found this backgammon club in Orange County, and I showed up, and Mario Savan and Vera Hawley kind of welcomed me. I think and we played a tournament. We were playing in a tournament, which was the first time I'd ever played in a tournament. It was a lot of fun. And I think I might have won, which, as I'm sure you know, is like hook, line, and sinker, right? You get super excited. You're like, wow.
No
cool.
luck involved, of course. No luck involved.
No luck involved. Yeah. So that's how I kind of got back into it. I just was so excited about it. And Vera had a coach, and I really enjoyed it and learned about the cube from fellow backgammon players in the Orange County club. So that's sort of how it all started back up in 2018.
Okay, but that started in 2018, but you don't get where you're getting without doing the homework afterward.
Right. Yeah. So I did get excited. I think I'm one of those people, I don't really like doing things unless I'm good at them or can be good at them. I don't want to just be mediocre. So I started playing often and kind of studying and learning about XG and all these things. And then, as I mentioned, my friend Vera, she was taking lessons with Roberto Litzenberger and introduced me.
By the way, a great teacher, and his wife is an unbelievable player as well.
Yeah, both fantastic players and human beings, which is great.
Exactly.
I really love them both. I'm looking forward to seeing Arena tonight play, so that'll be exciting. But she introduced me to Roberto, I think at that tournament in Los Angeles, and we started talking, and I took lessons from him for a little while, and that kind of kicked me off, into getting really into it. And then, I do a lot. I'm not sure if you want to hear about what I do on a daily basis now, but
we're definitely going to get to that. But I wanted to just lay the foundation of, so was there a moment in time where you said, you know what, I'm going to make this a major part of my life and I'm going to really excel at it? Was there a tipping point that led you there?
Not one that I can remember, but I know for sure there was. And I was like, okay, this is important to me. I want to be one of the best women in the world. I did say those things to myself,
Good.
and
Good to know.
what does it take to get there? And as we know, it's a lot.
Well, yeah, we do know that. All right. But one of the things, we just did a survey. Women in Backgammon sponsored a major survey where we went and asked women about competing and everything else. And some of the results were quite surprising to us. And one of the things we found is that women are very intimidated from going to play online or playing with friends to actually competing. That moment in time of walking in and not really knowing what it all means. And if you actually look at the sign-ins for some of these tournaments across the country, it's like you can enter all these events, but it doesn't explain what those events are, or
Right.
like who belongs in them, or should you sign up, or you're going to look ridiculous if you do. Did you find that walking in the door to actually sitting down to competing, did you feel that tension? What can you offer to those just thinking about doing this, how you walked in that door those first couple of times?
Yeah, so it's funny looking back. I do. So the very first tournament I played in was a beginner's one in Las Vegas. And I had been in San Francisco for work and just popped over to Las Vegas for this Saturday tournament. And it was a round robin. I think I played maybe 2 or 3 matches. I might have won one. Or maybe I lost them all. I can't remember, but it wasn't a good result at all. And that was kind of it. And I was sort of like, that's it. This is all there is. And, what do I do now? But it didn't dissuade me. I then went back to the Los Angeles one, and Candace is really great with beginners. She gets everyone together and talks to us. And in Los Angeles, I also had some people from the Orange County club there, which was really nice and helpful. So it's nice, I'd say, joining a local club is really important, I think, because that's where you start to build your community. And so that was kind of the first thing. But I'll tell you a story. It's really funny. So after I won that beginner one, I was very nervous to go up to intermediate. Even I was like, oh, I'm not ready. I'm not going to do this. But I think some friends encouraged me. I said, okay. So my first intermediate tournament was in New York. And I think
Wait, did you fly to New York to be in that tournament, or were you in New York anyway?
No, I think I flew there to be in the tournament. I have family in New York as well. And I lived in New York for 10 years. So that's kind of a no-brainer for me. I love going there and being in the city and seeing friends and that sort of thing. But yeah, so having said that, it was really funny because I think the main event started on Friday. So I played my first match, which I believe I lost. And then my brother.
It's so funny that you this, by the way, there's a thread in everything you're describing that can't be denied, which is she wants to win. She remembers which ones she won. She remembers which ones she lost. It's like it's a great motivator for someone like me who I can't remember which ones I won and which ones I didn't.
Yeah, and I think the journey along the way. I certainly remember when I was losing, and the bad beats as well. So Friday I lost that first one. I think my memory is not fantastic, but then Friday evening, I went to hang out with my brother and sister-in-law. I was having a glass of wine, and that's another thing is I don't drink when I'm in tournaments and playing in backgammon. That's one of the things. I don't drink and I don't eat sugar. So I also have some like health and eating habits that I kind of adhere to. But I was having a glass of wine because I was like, oh, they're in town. I don't play until tomorrow. And I get these phone calls saying, where are you? What are you doing? From the tournament director. I think it was, I know Lynn's the tournament director. I'm friends with her now, but then I didn't know who she was. And I was like, oh, I'm in my room. Why? And they're like, you need to play your next match, the consolation. So long story, my whole point is I had no idea how the tournament was run. I didn't know where I was supposed to be or what I was doing. I got docked like 3 points for my next match. So you learn one way or another. Someone tells you, you get docked points, and then you kind of figure it out. But I would recommend to people who want to play in tournaments is, first join your local club, because I think they can be incredibly supportive and kind of you start to get more comfortable playing across the board with people of all levels. I know, I would get really nervous in the beginning as well, because it's like I don't always know what I'm doing, and that subsides over time as well. So,
Well, the
yeah.
other thing is just for those that are watching this, you can email us at Women in Backgammon. If you've decided you're going to enter in a tournament, you can email us. We'll try to find you a buddy who's also going to be at that tournament that can help walk you through if you have any questions. Because for me, first tournament I played in, I started playing in the early 70s and then I stopped for 40 years. And when I went to LA to play, I just was a deer in headlights. I just didn't know where to go. I didn't, and I didn't participate in what Candace offered. So I didn't have any guidance through the process, and I didn't do
Yeah.
anywhere near what so do reach out to us and we'll definitely try to help you through the process of what to sign up for, what to do, exactly. So, all right, now let's walk through a couple things. All right, you work with a coach, right? And
I do.
yeah, you might, Jonah Seawald is one of the best coaches out there, no question. Okay, walk me through how you decided on him, how you chose him, and what it is that the process the two of you use to make you rise to a higher level.
Yeah, so I think the way I came across Jonah was I've been working with Roberto, and I think he and Irina were going to Argentina for a couple months. So there was a big chunk of time where he wasn't able to give lessons, and I was really eager to keep learning. I think it'd been about a year since I'd started at that point, and somewhere in there. And I'd met Jonah. I want to say I met him in LA, but I saw him play in um, Texas, and I think that's the year he might have won the Open, and I think he and Roberto played the Pro-Am doubles together. So I'd seen him play, and I really liked his playing style. But one of the things I think is important, and I'm sure you agree because I know you have a coach, Zizi, as well, is
By the
number
way,
one.
I love Zizi, and he's good for someone like me who A, has clearly ADD tendencies, and B, needs to participate and it needs to move quickly,
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things I'll say that I think Zizi and Jonah are very similar is that I look for personality and who I connect with. And, I saw Zizi in Las Vegas. He is so kind and outgoing and just such a good person and easy to be around. You're really rooting for. He's also an amazing player,
Yeah.
of
By the way,
course. So
the youngest grandmaster ever, by the way. Yeah.
yeah, but you're always rooting for him because he's such a sweetheart. And that's how I feel about Jonah too. It's like I love his playing style. He's such a good person. And that's how we kind of hit it off. But what's really funny is I was playing across the board with Marston, who was in Los Angeles, and that was one of his students. I think Marston had actually lived with Jonah for a couple months and was teaching him backgammon at the time. And so I'm playing Marston. Marston, I don't know if you know him, but he's a very sincere person. And Jonah walks over, is watching him play me, and Marston says, "I love Jonah. He is the best coach," was just so effusive and sincere. I was like, I really took it to heart. And then, a long story, I keep making these really long stories. I'm sorry, Christine, but eventually, when Roberto was in Argentina, I reached out to Jonah and we started coaching me.
I definitely want to stress what you said and what I feel too, which is, and I don't think this is necessarily a gender issue, but it could be. And that is, you have to be more than a great player to teach me. You have to be able to connect with me on an emotional level.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and the other thing I feel from Zizi, and if you don't feel it from your coach, you need to look around, is I think he wants me to win.
I think that's huge. And that's what that's what I always say about Jonah is I don't call him my teacher. He's my coach. And he treats me as such. If he's got time and we're at the same tournament, he's watching, he's asking how I'm doing. He wants me to win. He's advising me, coaching me, being my cheerleader. And we're very good friends now, so I do the same as well. But I think that's the main difference is, it's not just coming in for an hour and teaching me, but it's like yeah, I want you to win. I care about you.
Yep.
And
Well, the other thing for me is I once asked Zizi a couple months ago, okay, am I climbing Mount Everest without oxygen, never being able to get to the top? Like, am I never going to get to the promised land? Like, what's the best I can hope for? You've played with me for a couple months now. What? And he was honest. I think he said the best I could be would be a 9. He said, you're never going to be a grant, like, which by the way, I already knew. But what I loved is he had an honesty about let's shoot for things that are attainable, and I'm a lot
hmm
older than you, and I don't have much time to spend, as much time as I'd like to spend on this. I'm not playing in that many tournaments. All of it is just honest, fun, but intense. Like, he's pushing me. He's saying, look,
yeah,
we went over this 2 times ago. Go rewatch that Zoom. He's not letting me off the hook. And I think the one thing is you want to be challenged. So when you're picking
yeah.
the coach, look for challenging. All right, now let's go to your routine. I love that you said you don't eat sugar or drink during a tournament. Okay. What other prep do you do before you sit down to play?
Yeah, so whenever, let's say, for example, we're getting ready for the Los Angeles tournament next week. There are a couple of things. So I decide what I'm playing in. And going back to when I first started, I was only playing in the main because, the fees can add up. And when you're not that good, you don't want to be playing at these expensive jackpots and all these different things. But now I have kind of a routine. I try and max out the number of tournaments I'm in. So it's like, I'll do doubles, I'll do the main event, and I'll do a jackpot. Or maybe if I get out, I'll do a women's. But I try and limit it because, using your brain for backgammon all day, it's a lot of work and you get tired and kind of, it takes a toll. So I limit my the number of events, sorry, that I enter to about 3. And then what I do prior is I see how many points each tournament or each event, sorry, that I'm in is going to be. So let's say the doubles events are 7 points and the main are 11 or something like that. So what I do daily is I always warm up with DMPs. I do 4 or 5 DMPs and make sure I'm playing below I'd say for DMPs, I want to be playing below a 4 before I kind of move on. And then I say, all right,
Whoa,
once
whoa,
I've,
whoa, 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 wait, we have to slow down just a little bit. This is worth going into. Okay.
okay.
So you warm up. I never even heard that before. But all right, what if you're not? I mean, how in your warm up, how do you improve during a warm up? In other words, if you're not where you want to be when you start out that warm up, what do you do to make yourself better?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. And when I say warm up, it's kind of like getting ready for a race or something. I'm also a runner. So you don't just run, right? You kind of warm up, you get prepared. And so
I could not help you with that. I have no idea.
Christine. So I don't ever just sit down cold at a board. Even on our weekly, I go to a local backgammon club and we have our tournaments on Monday nights. I will do DMPs that sometime that day to kind of warm up and get my brain in the backgammon mode. And so let's say I play a DMP and I play like a 8 or something, right? That I shouldn't be doing because there are no cube decisions. It's just checker play. And I think the best advice I've given myself is to just slow down, be patient, take a breath, and think through each thing. Can I make a new point? Can I hit something? Can I escape a checker? And I find when I just slow down a bit, I play a lot better because I can be quite impatient. And if I'm just rolling the dice and not thinking through things, then things can go pear-shaped.
That's great. So how long is that warm up?
Well, it depends on how well I'm playing, to be honest with you. If I can play 5 DMPs in a row that are under 4, I'm pretty happy. And the other thing I'll say, Christine, the biggest thing about those DMPs is it instills confidence in me, in myself, So I say, okay, I'm playing where I should be. Now, when I sit down across the board from you or whomever, I'm not guessing at where my play level is. Like, I know I'm in the zone. I know I'm playing under a 4, and I should feel good about the decisions I'm making.
And if you're not playing under a 4, how do you fix that?
By just relaxing and thinking through those
Okay.
things that I
Okay.
kind
Gotcha.
of mentioned. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, with the other thing I think about, and I think I've mentioned this before, but sometimes when I'm nervous or whatever, what I do is I just calm myself by thinking when I see the opening roll, okay, I know how to play a 3-1. I got this. You know, and it sounds really basic. Everyone knows how to play an opening 3-1, but it just kind of calms you down and says, okay, yeah, just take it one roll at a time. I know how to do this. I've put the preparation in and now let's just execute.
Okay. One of the things I have trouble with, what's the longest match you've ever played?
Oh gosh, I played in Monte Carlo this year, and I think it was, I want to say they were 17 or 19. I've played maybe a longer one online, but in person, that was the longest in Monte Carlo.
Was how long?
I think it was about 19 points.
Yeah, but no, how long did it take? That's the
Oh,
long,
how many
not the largest.
hours?
Yeah. What, yeah. In other words, what's the longest time you've had to sit and focus?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure. Probably 2.5 hours, two and a half,
And
three
do you
hours.
find that difficult? I mean, for me, the hardest thing is to stay where I am in that moment. I've seen people show up with headphones. I've seen, how do you not leave the moment that you're supposed to be focused on during a long 2-hour match?
Yeah, I'm not sure I have an issue with that too much, but I would say, taking breaks is important, especially, if you're losing, you see a lot of the great players do this. If you're losing, like say 9-1 in a long match, you take a break and just kind of take a breath, stop the flow. I think people probably sometimes think that they're cooling off the other player, but I think more than anything, you just kind of need to take a deep breath and reset.
Which leads me to another question that I wanted to bring up today because we had you commentate the semifinals match for the Nationals last week, and
Mm-hmm.
you held your own even in the commentation with some very strong vocal men that were commentating. And for me, it's like, take a break. I don't want anybody to think I'm mucking around with someone's head. There's that thing that I suffer from, which is the need to please and the need to, if they're moving this dice like this, I don't set my own pace. I somehow respond to their pace. How do you take a step back and say, I don't care what it looks like. I'm going to take a break because I need it.
Yeah, I think that's a great question because I find I do sometimes the same thing, and that's when people are moving checkers really quickly that I need to do the same thing. But that's honestly why the clock is so good. And you'll see the great players like Mochi, for example, getting down to 50 seconds and he's taking time on the important decisions. So it's like, so can you, and oftentimes what I'll do, especially when there's a fast player, because I can't play fast, I need to think about things, is I'll deliberately go even slower just for a few plays, just to set my own self up for success, just kind of take a deep breath and say, okay, I don't have to, some people play really fast and they play great. I'm not one of those people, so I need to go at my own pace.
Well, I've watched you play. I never felt like you were slow. Never. And I've seen you also. I did see you take some time, and the answer that you came up with was one that I probably would have missed from not taking the time and not necessarily having the knowledge. Okay, how much are you running numbers in your head, Cara?
Not a ton. So oftentimes, I'll run numbers in terms of shot, like how many shots. When I'm thinking about a cube, I'm thinking about numbers, but not percentages. So I'm thinking, how many shots do I have at this checker? Does this mean that I can cube? In this case, can I take a cube? So those are things I'm thinking about. Counting, I'm constantly counting because that's always important. Again, when you're giving a cube, taking a cube, breaking an anchor. When you roll doubles, it's funny. I was going over a match I'd played online and I misplayed double sixes where, oftentimes it's kind of right to just run with double sixes, but that's if you're ahead in the race. If you're behind, it might be right to hit. So counting is always really important. When it comes to percentages, percentage wins, no, I don't know. Have no idea.
Interesting. And also helpful, because I think that's one of the stumbling blocks of, can I ever be great if I can't run the numbers the way a moochie can, So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, what's your daily routine? How many hours a day are you playing? Do you have a routine? What can you help us with? And is this the routine you've developed over time, or what did you start with?
Yeah, so this has definitely been developed over time, and I have to give all the credit to Jonah because, like you, I said, okay, here's where I want to be. How long is it going to take? And I'm sure, again, like you, I work full time. I have a family, so unfortunately, backgammon isn't what I can do all day, every day. I have a lot of other things going on. So my goal is to do about 2 hours a day minimum. And what I try and do is get that done in the morning before work, which again is why we're here early. It's nice to get things done early. I am a
We're
morning
7 a.m.
person.
her time, everybody. 7 a.m. And look at how perky she is.
So what I typically do is I read about 10 minutes of a book, and I have like backgammon books strewn around my house. So there's one by my bed, there's one in the living room. I have 5 sitting here by my desk. So I'll read about.
Can you hold them up for us?
The ones I have here, I'm reading all the cube actions because I need to work on my cube. Conquering Backgammon is one I love. It has opening replies in the back. I love that one. Cube Like a Boss. Again, I have cube problems. And Backgammon Genius. So this one's fun too. It's little quizzes. And then how some of the geniuses responded to it. So that's a lot of fun as well.
By the way, I love that selection of books. And I've asked people this in interviewing a lot. And those are books that I really, they're not exactly in the bestseller list of backgammon players. I love that. No, I love that, What we'll do, we'll make sure we can connect to those books on our website. We have a page of books that you can purchase. We'll make sure all the books that you've got sitting next to you are up there. So
it sounds good. Yeah, and Michi's downstairs. He's in my living room, so
where he belongs.
Yes, I love all of his books. Yeah, so I'll do about 10 minutes of reading because I'm not a book person per se in terms of backgammon learning. I really like doing. And then I will spend, Jonah has put together a very exhaustive list of kind of backgammon rules or things that we've learned. I think it's up to like 75. So I'll read through those for about 10 minutes. I usually do a chunk of like 10 to 20 a day. And then recycle. And then I'll start with my DMPs. And then once those are good, I always play against XG. I know a lot of people like to go on Galaxy and play other people, but I play the expert on XG. So I'll do DMPs, and then I'll go through and play like a 7-pointer if I'm playing 7 points in doubles. Then I'll play a 9-pointer if I'm playing that in the main event. So I'm always practicing for what I'm going to play. And another example of that is at our local club, we play 5-pointers. And that's kind of a new thing. We used to play 7 points. I hate 5-pointers because it always feels like there's a lot of luck involved.
There's just too much leeway. And I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hated them. And I was like, you know what? You got to turn your frown upside down. Like, we're playing these every night. Stop hating them. So I've just started practicing them a lot. And now it's really good because, listen, even in a 9-point match, it can turn into a 5-point match, right? When you're 5 away sort of thing.
It's funny. I was talking to Zizi. I play Galaxy mostly, and he has me play only 7-point matches. And then, you'll find that somebody with a much higher ranking than me will accept to play, or a much lower ranking. And I've said to him, should I accept one and not the other? And his answer to me is always, accept anybody. It's funny. But it's interesting. You don't want to play with people. You'd prefer to play. It would seem to me if you were preparing for a match, you would want to play with people. Galaxy, one of the things it does is it lets you play against experts, but then you're also having that human factor that you're missing on XG interesting that you don't go back and forth,
Yeah, I actually think you're right. And I heard that argument recently as well. And I do think it's true because sometimes, XG doesn't make mistakes and people do, right? So
Right.
I should be playing against people on Galaxy and that sort of thing. But I think one of my things I think about myself is that I don't take it as seriously if I'm just playing a match on Galaxy as I normally do. So I play in the online USBGF and I take those very seriously. So I am playing humans and I play them, maybe 2 to 3 times a week. I'm playing a match on USBGF, but I don't take these other ones on Galaxy as seriously because it's not for a tournament. It's not for this. And so I think, actually, I think you're right. I should start playing against people
I don't
because
know
you're
if you should or
absolutely right.
shouldn't, but all right, but my next question then leads to that. When you're going to play, have you played Moochie?
I have not played Mochi or Michi.
Okay,
No.
but when you're playing somebody, do you treat it different? In other words, when I see somebody always takes the cube, I'm gonna give it to them in a different way than somebody who I think rarely takes the cube. Do you know what I mean? Like there are
Yeah.
people you play and it's like early on, they never take the cube. They walk away fast. Okay, I'm going to give them the cube earlier, and again, Zizi says to me, you're not good enough to play that way. Just give it when you're supposed to give it. You're not supposed to analyze the other person's, faults and strengths. Do you look at the person across the way and play differently for who's across the table?
No, I fall under that ZZ category. I'm not good enough to do that. I just want to play well. And so my goal is to just play correct, right? And then, once I'm at ZZ's level or Jonah's level,
okay,
then I can start playing the person.
I'm humble. I'm humbled by your response. I used to jump horses, and years ago, my trainer, we were at 7 a.m, which we never did. We rode into the field and I looked around. I said, oh my God, this is so beautiful this early, because there was not anyone else in the field. It was stunning. And she said, you don't ride well enough to look at the beauty. Pay attention to what you do. Now, it's not like I haven't been told during my life to do that. So it's good to have that reinforced here along that way. So look, this has been great. We try to keep these to a half an hour. It's gone a little longer. I do have 4 questions though that I ask everybody at the end. So
Okay.
what do you do what do you do? What is your vocation?
I'm a VP of marketing in a real estate company.
Okay. And do you think that brings anything to the table?
I do. I think it's very, the overlap is that it's problem solving. I like that marketing for me is very big picture, and I think that's backgammon. You can't zone in on one area, right? You have to look at the whole board and think about everything that's going on, and it's constantly changing, as is marketing and the marketing field, right? You're also in marketing.
I am, yes.
So there are all these things that you're constantly thinking about, but I always go back to the problem solving, which I think almost every vocation kind of is like, hey, how do I solve this? How do I solve for this problem? And doing something fun and cool to solve for something you do in marketing and in backgammon, I think. And there's a lot of overlap there. Obviously, there aren't a lot, there's statistics and analytics in marketing.
I love the data of marketing.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like it because it really shows whether you did well or not. But
yeah.
But I happen to.
Which is why it's great.
Yeah, it really is great. And also, it's interesting in marketing. I'll tell a story. We did a lot of Barack Obama's social media. And on Facebook, when they got to 25 million followers, everybody's like, 25 million followers. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And somebody said, Merser, you're not saying anything. And I said, well, SpongeBob has 45 million. And half the people here hate us. Like that number is only relevant if you put it in context or perspective. And for me, for marketing, and that's true in backgammon too. What could be, double six is a great role, not always.
That's my husband always says the always great double six. I'm like, except when you're on the bar.
Or other times too. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, I don't want to be that far along, whatever.
Exactly.
Anyway. Okay. All right. Do you have any superstitions? Do you wear the same outfit? Do you, is there anything superstitious about the way you play?
Not a thing. No. I've found people who are like, well, can we play on my board this time? Sure. Can we play with these dice? Sure. Whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite food?
My favorite food is Persian food, and it's
Really?
a dish called.
Give me something to eat. I have no idea what that even means.
So there's this pomegranate and walnut stew called fezanjan, and that's my absolute favorite dish.
Okay, great to know.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful answer, and I've asked that question 100 times in interviewing people. I've never had that answer. So once again, you're a standout moment. Favorite book of your life?
Oh, favorite book. Gosh. The Kite Runner always comes to mind. It's probably cliche, but just one of my favorite books of all time. Yeah.
And the movie that followed it was such a disappointment,
I didn't even watch it.
You were absolutely right. Yeah, interesting. Great book. Is there a TV series you don't miss?
A TV series, Ted Lasso.
Really? That's clever.
Yeah.
Okay, very good, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you for this time today. Really grateful and looking forward to seeing you in the future, and hope you'll come back with us and talk again.
Me too, you. Thank you so much, Christine. This was fun.